Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3 teenagers. I believe that your body does want to and is capable of rebuilding and healing itself, regardless of what chronic disease you may have. And I'm here for you to answer your questions, bring you innovative and cutting-edge technologies and health solutions to empower you and your ability to reach your optimal state of health. Today, my guest will be talking about EMFs and the damage that it can do to your body. And I know from hitting rock bottom myself that you really need a strong physical foundation to work on your mental or spiritual growth. Whether it's overcoming anxiety and depression, losing weight, or detoxing your body in the proper way, and even increasing your level of frequency in life, you need a strong physical foundation of health in order to gain the willpower to make the bigger changes in life. If you're new to following me, I specialize in helping you get there. You can find my health articles, my cutting-edge natural supplements, devices, and protocols at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I dive into an array of health conditions, their causes and symptoms, and how to address them naturally. I have spent thousands of dollars and hours of my time biohacking different supplements, technologies, and diets that don't work, so you don't have to. If you have any health issues you need help with, you can email me through the website. I personally read every single one. Accelerated Health Products is the sponsor of this show, so as you support my website, I'm here to bring you more cutting-edge content and guests to the show. Today, we are going to be diving in on the damage of EMFs and what they do to our body, and how there are healing frequencies and damaging frequencies. I talk a lot about increasing your frequency and living at a higher level for a more optimal state of life. So first, I wanted to talk about some healing frequency enhanced supplements that can aid you in the process of healing quicker and more efficiently. Number 1, Acceleradine iodine. The iodine is the wild card in supporting the immune system. It's not only anti-inflammatory, but also antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial, antiseptic, antioxidant, anti-allergenic, antihistamine, and so much more. And it increases apoptosis, healthy apoptosis, which is the natural death of traumatized and unhealthy cells. There's no pathogen resistant to iodine, and it was used to protect 30 million people during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. So imagine what it could be doing right now for all of us. All of these immune boosting benefits are in addition to its key role for the metabolism and the thyroid. And not only that, but iodine is the most important spiritual supplement as it relieves depression and brain fog and helps you connect to your higher self. I talk about increasing your frequency, meaning living at a higher level of awareness and spirituality. The scalar frequency embedded in this acceleradine detoxes your pineal gland, which connects you to your higher self. It clears that brain fog and awakens you. It also helps detox you from the harmful EMFs that we'll be talking about today. No other iodine supplement does this. Second one, Nuke No More. Accelerated Nuke No More is the best radiation poisoning treatment I've come across. It is a scalar charged Ormus formula that supports the removal of ionizing radiation from nuclear fallout, smog, ionizing X-rays, and commercial flying, as well as the non-ionizing radiation from smart meters, smartphones, and the other electropollution that we're living with 24/7. Additionally, it's able to help detox heavy metals from the brain. There is no supplement like this, and with the harmful EMFs we are living with, this is a must. Number 3, the accelerated scalar silver. I will never be without this. Not only does it have an alkaline pH of 8.0 or above, it creates that environment that foreign pathogens may not be able to survive in, and it's also programmed with the bioinformational scalar technology as well to further help strengthen the immune system and devitalize those foreign pathogens like viruses and bacteria. And like the accelerator, the scalar frequencies embedded in the silver lift you to a higher state of being or a higher frequency. And furthermore, we use microclustered water technology to lower the surface tension for better absorption. Number 4, accelerated gold. Like the silver, it too has an alkaline pH, and gold has been known for thousands of years to help with anxiety, depression, sleep, and even increasing IQ. It takes it one step further beyond any other gold supplement and has the scalar frequencies embedded in the formula to enhance these healing properties. Lastly, the accelerated cellular detox powder. This blend of 6 organic detoxification ingredients are the top ingredients to help soak up the toxins, including heavy metals, alcohol, food poisoning, and radiation, while also killing parasites and fungus. It includes zeolite, and the zeolite benefits include detoxing toxins from the body, including ammonia and heavy metals, binding them up for safe removal from the body and not burdening the liver or the kidneys. Furthermore, it cleans out the whole digestive tract, helps with regularity, heals colitis and ulcers, and reduces intestinal inflammation. And now it is programmed with those frequencies, the scalar frequencies, to detox you even further from the heavy metals and insecticides. So now to the good stuff. Brian Hoyer, he dove into health. It started when he became a father, wanting to provide the most optimal growing environment for his family. His desire for them to thrive and devotion to discover the truth drove him to find the most insightful and effective cutting-edge methods for addressing what's really going on in our bodies and in our environments. This led Brian to become a functional nutritional therapy practitioner and became a certified geobiologist trained by a naturopathic and environmental medicine clinic in Austria. And that place has been addressing EMF and geopathic stress since 1983. Brian travels all over the country doing EMF assessments, speaking at conferences and on podcasts, and has helped families install shielding solutions. Welcome, Brian. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Like I mentioned before, it's nice to be talking about something other than the election. So I wanted to start by saying I saw you test Ben Greenfield's home and Mike Muscle from High Intensity's health home, and I have to say I'm blown away by the awful sound that EMF signal makes on your testing device, and it just makes me go crazy. And I'm so afraid of you coming into my house. As I'm looking at my desktop, I have a laptop to my left, and I have 3 smart devices in my office in addition to those. So I know we are all being exposed, and here I am in the health industry taking supplements, trying to eat right, exercise, sleep, all these things. And there's this factor that is not natural to what our ancestors were living with, that we're facing with. Some of it's in our control, but some of it's out of our control. So I wanted to talk first about, why do you think all of a sudden, because I feel like in 2020, it really has become something that people are more aware of, why there's this sudden interest in Wi-Fi and the damage of EMFs?
Well, I think we've kind of reached a tipping point with what the human body can handle. And a lot more people are realizing they're seeing more antennas physically go up, and they're closer to their homes now. And so there's a visual reminder of all the technology that's around us. And I think a lot of us as parents, we're looking at our kids and how they're glued to their devices. And so there's a lot of like visual reminders of like how much we're relying on technology. And I think the question's starting to pop into our minds, like, this doesn't really seem very natural. This doesn't seem like if we had a zoo exhibit that was exhibiting humans, are we supposed to be connected to all these devices and staring at these screens that are glowing blue on us and emitting these frequencies out? Or is it supposed to look more like, hey, we're foraging food from the jungle, eating fruit off the trees, hunting, and doing all of these things that mankind has done for thousands or millions of years, depending on what you believe. But I think that there's something innate inside of us, instinctual, that's kind of starting to call out to us that, like, hey, we need to step back from this and think about this a little more. And all the visual cues, I think, are showing up, and people are starting to ask questions and starting to feel the effects of these frequencies.
Well, just for me, I mean, since March, my kids are on Zoom for their classes, and then they stay on their computers for their homework. So they don't get that interaction in school with humans, like really being around humans. And we're not even touching each other anymore, and hugging and high-fiving and being around our friends and that sort of thing. And my kids have complained about headaches and their eyes going blurry, and we've gotten blue blocking glasses and certain things to try to mitigate it. But I think also people are getting really comfortable doing Zoom instead of meeting in person. And so it's gotten so much worse. And you're right about the towers. So if people aren't even afraid of 5G and what's coming, they don't like the look of the towers. So you've got just the normal person who's not really into their health going, okay, our city's becoming ugly with all these towers being put up. And I think you're right. So it's really bringing more awareness. So why don't we start with what is Wi-Fi and what is it doing to our bodies? What is the damage?
So there's 6 different types of EMF stress that we test for when we go into someone's house. And wireless radiation or Wi-Fi or cell phone tower frequencies, that's one of the 6 things that we test for when we come into someone's house. So a lot of us focus on the wireless aspect because that seems to be the thing that's exponentially increasing. And I think that the focus should be there to an extent. But we also have other stressors that we can actually mitigate and help with in your house to kind of lower the stress bucket. If you kind of visualize things as like we have all these stressors. I actually like the visualization more of, if I can get in the camera here, the right angle. I like the visualization more of like a balance or a scale. So on this side, you have everything that you're doing, all the supplements, nutrient dense whole food, different therapies that you might do, all the things that are nourishing your body on this side. And then over here, you have all the things that are kind of stressing out your body. And so in order to tip the scale of health in the right direction, you've got to remove the stuff that's weighing down this side, all the stressors, and add more to this side so that this side is outweighing the bad side. And sometimes what happens is we do so much over here on this side with all the wonderful supplements and diet and everything, but we just have so much weighing us down on this side with the pesticides and the EMF and the GMOs and all this crap that we're having to deal with in our environment. And your body just can't tip that scale. So ideally, you have to do both, but removing those stressors is very different than supporting the body to deal with those stressors. So wireless radiation, it actually activates along these on the cellular level in your body on these voltage-gated calcium ion channels. And it causes this domino effect of inflammation via what's called the no-ono cycle, which is a nitric oxide peroxynitrite cycle. And when there's voltage detected along the cell membrane, there's this little gate that opens up and allows calcium to enter the cell. And when that calcium goes inside the cell, that's when that inflammation pathway begins. And a lot of people can't get that inflammation pathway to stop until they have all of these stressors that are blocked out. And so a lot of us are in this chronic cycle of inflammation all the time. And the thing about these particular channels that these different various types of EMFs actually stimulate is that they're concentrated in the heart and in the brain. And so what are the most common chronic issues that we have in our society right now? We have a lot of heart problems, and we have a lot of neurological problems: Alzheimer's, autism, Parkinson's, MS. There's a lot of issues neurologically, and also with our hearts and our circulatory system right now. And so, and another interesting thing that I'll go off on a little bit of a tangent here is that same pathway is something that actually inflames when you have a respiratory virus as well. Mm. And so it's affecting our immune system. It's causing this inflammation, this chronic inflammation to continue and to cycle. And it's having a huge impact on people's sleep. Basically, anywhere there's a weak link in your biology individually, that's where it can actually add more inflammation or more problems to that area. And it's the problem with a lot of the man-made frequencies that we have is they weren't here 200 years ago, right? They were non-existent. Our bodies did not adapt, or we weren't created to be in this type of environment where we have all these pulsating frequencies, because nature doesn't pulse. Nature is constant.
Right. So it's funny, we got just a question, and there was a theory at the beginning of COVID that the locations that around the globe that really got hit hard were the ones that have 5G completely installed. And, is there a direct connection? I don't know. However, if these frequencies are suppressing our immune system, it only makes sense that those people will be hit harder by the current threat. Would that be correct?
Yeah, definitely. And there's actually some studies being done on this right now. And Dr. Magda Havas has collected a group of, she's in contact with a bunch of doctors all around the world, and she's starting to collect some data on that. And it's not necessarily just 5G. It's in these areas where they've installed 5G. They're really populated areas, and they're really high EMF, even when it was 4G. Mm-hmm. And so these people that live in these areas are more susceptible, not only because of EMF, but also because of air pollution and other factors that, health reducing factors of living in a city, high stress jobs, whatever it might be, lots of gasoline fumes. They're walking on the street more. They're breathing in more of that type of air. So we kind of need to look at this from a more holistic perspective. In urban environments, how healthy is that environment compared to something more rural? And EMF is definitely one factor that we can say does affect the immune system, does affect that inflammatory pathway, and helps. It also depletes you of magnesium, because every time, if you think about electricity, how electricity causes muscles to contract, right? So we restart a heart by pumping voltage through it, and it causes the heart muscle to contract. And magnesium helps that muscle to relax. But if you have this constant pulsating frequencies that are in the wiring in your walls, and the micro pulsations from the higher frequencies of wireless that are resonating with your body on a cellular level, then you have this constant jolting that's going on, and it's depleting you of magnesium. Your muscles are never able to relax. It's trying to relax. Okay, we get a jolt, we use up calcium, and then we try to relax, and we use up all our magnesium. And so, I kind of have this theory, and there is some research to back this up as well, that a lot of our magnesium deficiency in our culture, which is like up to 80%, there's probably more than 80%, I would guess, that are magnesium deficient, but there's a number out there, 80% of people are magnesium deficient. I think it's largely due to our exposure to these frequencies that we'd never had before, and we're depleting ourselves constantly of that and other minerals as well.
Yeah, I do testing through a Genius Insight app on my website, Accelerated Health Product. And if anyone is interested in scanning themselves and seeing where their deficiencies are, I've never seen one person that is not magnesium deficient ever. And I take all my supplements. I'm magnesium deficient, and magnesium is needed for hundreds of mechanisms in your body. So it is so important. And I agree. I think this is a big part of that deficiency. What is the difference between 3G, 4G, and 5G? And is there a huge jump into the damage that's going to be happening, or are we already experiencing the damage with the 3G and 4G?
Yeah, so there was a big jump from 2G to 3G, and then from 3G to 4G there was a significant jump as well. With 5G, they're planning to install twice as many antennas as we currently have with 4G. So 4G was already terrible, and people were seeing symptoms, and it started to kind of accelerate the awareness of, oh my gosh, there's something going on here. People are starting to show up with symptoms. There's more people that are saying that they're electro-hypersensitive, self-identifying, or being even diagnosed by certain doctors that accept that diagnosis. And then a lot of chronic insomnia has been going on the last 10 years. From I think a lot of it has to do with the installation of 4G and 4G LTE antennas all over, but 5G is just increasing the saturation of everything that 4G was doing, and has a lot less to do with millimeter waves than what a lot of people out there are thinking. And millimeter waves are a higher frequency that's got all this beam-forming technology, and there is some documentation that they've used it or that they do use it as a military weapon and some of these things. But everything that I've seen as far as what they're installing, it doesn't look like we're going to actually be exposed to very many of those millimeter waves. And that's, just so you guys have a little reference, like the millimeter waves, it's a technology that they use that to scan you when you go through the airport with the little spinny thing that kind of goes around. It's like whoosh, whoosh. And that they're using millimeter waves in that device they say it doesn't penetrate through the skin. They don't penetrate through solid objects very well, and so they're very easy to block. And the thing about here, let me just cover this thing about airports really quick while we're on this topic, because it's ironic what happens. A lot of us I always try to avoid going through that scanner because I think it's terrible, not only for the millimeter waves but also the magnetic field that it produces, and it has a large magnetic field that it gives off as well. But the problem that happens with a lot of people in an airport, like if you want to avoid that exposure, they say, okay, sir or ma'am, please step aside. And then they go and they put you right next to the x-ray machine, or right next to the machine that you are trying to avoid. And you're there for like 3 or 4 different people being scanned, and you're getting that exposure anyway. So if you do opt out of that, ask if you can wait away from the machine. Because otherwise you're getting probably more exposure than you would have if you just went ahead and went through and then got the heck out of there,
Gosh,
So,
that's exactly what I do every single time. And you could be waiting 10 to 15 minutes right there. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I thought here I'm doing something better for me, and I'm just annoying the rest of my family because they just go straight through the machine. But I feel awful every time I go to an airport and every time I fly. I just can feel drained, and I feel the damage done. Someone's asking, what can we do to mitigate all of this? We are going to get to all of the solutions at the end of the show, so stay tuned. I want to also touch on nighttime versus daytime and the exposure, and what the difference is because of what our bodies do versus during the day versus the night.
yes, definitely. And that's probably one of the most important things that I kind of hit home with people when I'm talking with them on an EMF assessment, or in a lot of the interviews that I do in the course that we teach, is that there has to be a priority system. And so the priorities that I go with is the same thing that I go with when I'm coaching somebody on how to digest their food, how to eat, how to relax. A lot of us have high stress levels. We have adrenal problems, hypothalamus, pituitary problems, and we have and vagal nerve problems, and we have a hard time calming down. And that vagus nerve actually stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's a detoxification system. That's a digestion system. And that's just a relaxation and healing mode for the body. And so the most important times that you can be protected from any external stressor, whether it's EMF or the air quality or emotional stress, the most important times to block yourself or protect yourself from that is when you're sleeping, when you're eating, and then when you're detoxing, because those are all the parasympathetic modes in the body for the nervous system. So your body, just to kind of take this back from a more ancestral perspective, your body prioritizes those parasympathetic responses, which is your rest and digest responses, when there's no perceived threat out there. And so it's kind of like you're like you don't ever see an antelope on the African Serengeti or whatever that's running from a cheetah and then being like, oh, well, maybe I need to eat some grass here. No, they're just continually running from that predator. And that's kind of what we've done. And the body's not going to prioritize detox. It's prioritizing getting away from that predator. And so and it's not prioritizing restoring the body, rebuilding cells and tissues and things like that. So a lot of what we've done is with the energetic environment that we've created all these pulsations that are constantly stressing the body, bringing us into the sympathetic fight or flight state, and we can never get out of it into the healing state. So with that, as it has to relate to EMF, our goal is to protect those 3 areas in the home, and we've come up with a strategy to do that. And we start with the bedroom, because you're spending 8 hours, a third of your life is spent in your bedroom sleeping every night. And it's the time when your brain detoxes, your lymphatics are draining, and your body is actually rebuilding and restoring. And so that's like the body's innate default healing mechanism. It's not when we're eating our food. When we're eating our food, it's very important to digest, so we have those resources available. But those resources, most of them are being used to repair when we're sleeping, not when we're active and awake. And so you build those stores up during the day so that you can use them at night. And a lot of the foods and supplements that we're eating during the day have antioxidants in them to combat the stress that we are experiencing during the day, whether that's emotional stress or an environmental stressor. So we have the support we need, the endogenous support with the food and the supplementation during the day, but at night our shields are down and we're vulnerable. So we need to be protected from it. We don't have, usually the vitamin C is used up, the antioxidants are used up during the day from the oxidative stress. And that's when melatonin starts to play a role in being the body's most potent antioxidant, even more potent than glutathione. And so when your melatonin goes up, your cortisol goes down, and it floods the brain and basically sweeps up all these oxidative stresses that have built up during the day and pumps them out through the cerebral spinal fluid, through the lymphatic system in the brain, for your liver and your kidneys to deal with in circulation. And then the whole body has all these circadian rhythms where it's like, okay, let's detox the kidneys at this time. Let's detox the liver at this time, and the stomach and the pancreas and all these lymphatics. The whole lymphatic system is connected, and it's draining at night. And if the melatonin is not able to get to its peak, then that's a problem. And that's why included in the EMF spectrum is visible light and artificial light, that's the man-made light. And that has a huge impact on melatonin production, as does the radio frequencies, because they're pretty close in relationship on the electromagnetic spectrum to blue light and some of the visible light, that the body's starting to perceive these EMF stress as light because it doesn't know how else to perceive it.
It's so interesting. And you mentioned cortisol, and I love that you talked about the relationship with melatonin, because I talk about cortisol and epinephrine as the dirty cupcake. It doesn't matter if you're eating sugar or not. Cortisol raises your blood sugar. And that's why people who are stressed out will gain weight out of nowhere. And it just puts this whole cascade of negative things that are happening on your body. And so if cortisol's up and your melatonin is not able to get up to create that deep restorative sleep, no food or diet or nutritional supplements or any exercise is going to combat that. Sleep is number one. And this is one step that we can all take. We do need to take a short commercial break, but we're going to continue this with Brian Hoyer and talk about all the things that we can do to combat EMFs and all the exposure we are exposed to. Welcome back to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sarah Banta, the owner of Accelerated Health Products. And today we have Brian Hoyer talking about all EMFs and the damage it's doing to us and what we can do about it. Brian, I want to touch on smart meters and also dirty electricity. And I have a funny story about the smart meter. I was told I needed to make sure I don't have a smart meter and put the old analog meter back on my house. And I happened to be home when they came to switch it out. Well, they weren't bringing the old analog. They were bringing the upgraded smart meter. And the guy thought I was crazy. So I sent him back and I called the company directly. I got the manager on the phone. He said, well, we don't have any in stock, but I'll get some and I'll call you next week. He calls me and he says, Sarah, I've got 5 in stock. I'm going to send one out to your house. I'm going to take one myself. And I've got 3 extra if you have friends that need them. And so here the guy from the power company is taking an analog meter for himself. But you have to be on these people because they are going to lie to you and tell you they're putting in the right meter or the analog. And so I want to touch on what the smart meter is and why we're using them and the damage that it is doing.
Sure. Yeah. So the smart meter is a meter that's on your electrical system that's measuring how much electricity you're using, allegedly. Mm-hmm. And there's some problems with that because a lot of people have been reporting that they're over-reporting their use. And then also the main thing that we're concerned about is the design of the smart meter is such that it pulses a very strong pulse of radio frequency radiation, and often it's located in locations in the home where they're like on the other side of the wall from a bedroom, or the neighbor's meter is right across the window. You can see it outside, and that's pulsing right into your bedroom. That's a very common scenario. And then also the way that it's designed, it has this switch mode power supply, so it causes a lot of dirty energy to come onto the entire electrical system. And so more so than what an analog meter would do. Most analog meters aren't adding too much dirty power to your lines, but it's the smart meter, as far as like things that it can be related to, and from a health perspective, there's actually a video on YouTube where there's a man that's hooked up to an EKG machine, and we have a meter. There's a meter that's measuring radio frequency pulse, and you can see them both on the screen logging. And the moment that the smart meter pulses, the man hooked up to the EKG machine has a heart arrhythmia. Oh. And so this is a common symptom that I get from a lot of my customers, that I get reported from a lot of my customers, who you say, after the smart meter was installed, I started to have panic attacks. I started to have heart arrhythmias, heart palpitations, whatever. And And it's also a common symptom for people that are sensitive, or they're all of a sudden they have panic attacks. And they call them panic attacks because your heart starts to beat like crazy. You don't know why it's happening. And you don't even think that it might be your cell phone or your friend's cell phone or a smart meter pulsing next to you. So if you do have symptoms of like panic attacks, or your heart just starts to race for what seems like no reason, start to observe and pay attention to what's around you, what might be emitting around you, because it could be that something is just pulsating, and it's a silent pulsation. You can't hear it, but that could be stimulating your heart to have an arrhythmia, or for you to have what seems like a panic attack because your heart just starts racing for what seems like no reason at all.
Right.
And so these smart meters being installed, they're bad. They do have covers that you can purchase online. And there's YouTube videos on how to make your own smart meter cover DIY that work pretty good to block that signal. And then there's also a product that we sell on the Shielded Healing website that filters out. You have an electrician wire this in. It's a surge protector and power conditioner that actually improves your energy efficiency in the home. And that filters out all the dirty electricity that the smart meter is creating, and also the electricity that's delivered from the power company that's often unacceptable as well. So multiple issues with that. And the other last issue I would say is that if that meter is right on the other side of the bedroom, there's also a magnetic field and a lot of electricity that's coming out from the meter, because that's where all of the wires from the house are converging into that location. So you've got electric fields, you've got magnetic fields, you've got dirty electricity, and you've got a wireless signal. So that's 4 of the 6 stressors in that one device.
So what do you do about it? If it's outside your bedroom, is there anything you can do to mitigate the effects?
So to mitigate the magnetic field, you have to have a special magnetic blocking material that you would probably, you can install it behind a bookshelf, or if you're doing a new build, you can do it behind, the drywall. For the electric fields, and to block the radio frequency, you can shield the whole bedroom with a special type of paint. It's a shielding paint. Or you can get a bed canopy that has this, we have this fabric that we use for our customers. That's it's a silver and organic cotton shielding fabric, and this blocks the radio frequencies, but also blocks the when it's grounded, it blocks the electricity from penetrating in. And then the other solutions that I mentioned before are the whole house power conditioner, and then also the cover that you can DIY. You can make that yourself. So, and then the other thing that a lot of people do, obviously, is they'll try to opt out and not have a smart meter. But ultimately, if you do these other solutions, you're protecting also from the cell phone towers, the Wi-Fi, the electric fields from the wiring in your walls. And there's so many other things that are impacting you in the room. You need to create that room as a safe haven so that you can, all those dormant healing responses can finally be activated, and you start to detox like you never have in your life before, and sleep better than you ever have before, and start to not worry so much about EMF, which you've worried about, maybe especially after watching this interview a lot, So there are solutions out there, but you kind of have to have somebody come in and help guide you through it. Otherwise, it's very difficult to figure that out.
So here we are talking about the big 5G EMS and all of that. What about our light switches? Just the basic light switches. When we built our home, we have light switches everywhere, and we're looking at them going, why did we do so many light switches in general? What is it causing, and what can we do about those?
So having a lot of light switches, I'm not as concerned about the light switches themselves, unless you've got a lot of dimmers, because the dimmer switches, the way that they're designed, it makes it so that there's a large magnetic field that can go out sometimes, depending on how it's wired, 2, 3, 4 feet out, from around the center of the light switch. So If that light switch dimmer switch happens to be near a bed or a place where you're sitting, then you could be sitting in an elevated magnetic field that entire time. And a lot of the three-way switches, so like a three-way switch is when you have three different switches that turn on the same light. And so you're walking around like your kitchen or your dining room and you're like, okay, this turns on that light. This also turns that light on, and that one turns that on too. A lot of those, I've been in a lot of homes and a lot of people have this and they're like, I don't really know how these light switches work, but sometimes the contractor goes crazy with installing these switches, and often they don't install them correctly. And unfortunately, when that happens, there's a wiring error, what's called a wiring error, and they often will install a two-way wire in what they're supposed to have hardware for three ways, three different switches that are controlling one light. And when that happens, it creates elevated magnetic fields because the wires aren't going together, they separate at some point. And when there's a separation, it doesn't, the two fields that are going the different directions don't cancel each other out, and it creates a huge magnetic field that's and these magnetic fields, even in like 0.9 milligauss, that's the reading. Milligauss is the reading for magnetic fields that we use for AC magnetic fields. And even at 0.9 milligauss, you have studies that link to childhood leukemia, different types of cancers, and different conditions that are actually medically diagnosed conditions that have correlations to elevated magnetic fields. And in some homes where you have that issue going on, you have, I said 0.9 was the childhood leukemia correlation. Well, I've been in homes where it's been at like 3 milligauss all the way up to 30 milligauss. And those people are just being baked in this magnetic field that's oscillating at 60 hertz, 120 times per second, back and forth. And you can just imagine what that magnetism is doing on a cellular level. Iron is affected by magnetism. Every single mineral, magnesium, zinc, iodine, all of these minerals are affected by magnetism in some way, and it's distorting the natural field of the earth and what we're normally exposed to. And so our body's not able to metabolically do what it's supposed to do in the most natural way because it's got this interference from all these pulsating frequencies on this cellular level.
Wow. I have a feeling we have that issue in our own home. My son was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 9, and that is the reason that I found my passion for health. And so this is very interesting. I need you to come check out my house. But knowing that we're running out of time and not everyone's going to be able to actually have you personally come out to their home, what are the top things that we can all do today or tomorrow just to start mitigating the issue? And I know that we may not feel a total difference because it's kind of like if you go on a low carb diet and you cheat every once in a while, it's you're not going to feel the big difference. But what can we start doing to chip away at the problem that we're living in?
Yeah, so there are some really easy steps, and at some point I would recommend to get a professional to come in and test things. And there's some specific guidelines for how to determine who you want to hire. And I have a team of 5 guys that I've trained, and they travel all over, and I travel as well, all over the United States. But you want somebody, especially if you have a skeptic in the house, you want somebody who is able to connect with the skeptic in the house. Usually it's the husband or a teenager of some sort, and you need to get them on board. Otherwise, you could be shooting yourself in the foot if you hire somebody that they're not going to get along with, and it's maybe your only chance to hire somebody because they're not going to want to hire somebody again, Right. So you gotta interview them and make sure that they're the right fit for your family before you decide to hire somebody. But some of the easiest things that you can do right now is try to get on a wired connection for your internet connection. Or at least turn off your Wi-Fi at night. You can set it on one of those light timers so that it automatically turns off every night. There's some there's some little devices where you can plug in the Wi-Fi router to it, and it comes with a remote control, so you can actually turn it on and off with a remote control, and doesn't continually emit like the Wi-Fi router does. So pulling the bed out from the wall and unplugging all the lamps, getting battery operated lamps, is something that's been helpful to people. And then keeping your phone in airplane mode as much as possible, and not ever carrying it on your body when it's not on airplane mode. Just some little habits like that are key. And then also, a lot of us are charging our phones right next to our bed.
Right.
And that's doing several things. If you don't have your phone on airplane mode, it's pulsing all night long while you're sleeping and causing some major stress on your body. If you have to be available, like you're on call, nurse or doctor or something like that, turn your mobile data off so that all your apps are not updating all night long. And that's a huge thing. That'll reduce a lot of the pulsations that are happening. But ultimately, airplane mode is good. And then we're also plugging it into the wall next to the bed, which is bringing more electricity closer to the bed. So nothing should be plugged in the bedroom that doesn't have a shielded cord. Even with it, you can plug something in across the room that should be okay. But ultimately, keeping things unplugged, especially in the bedroom. If you just start in the bedroom, turn the Wi-Fi off at night, and keep the lamps unplugged near the bed, we've had people who see a significant difference just doing that. And there are others who don't feel much until they do the whole shebang and shield the whole room, and then it's like night and day. And we've had people who have Aura rings. I don't have mine on right now, but it's a sleep tracker, and it tracks the quality of your sleep, your REM, your deep sleep, and notice significant changes when sleeping in a shielded room versus an unshielded room. And they get more deep sleep, more REM. And then we've had people who, after sleeping in a shielded room for just one night, they get off their thyroid medication.
Amazing.
And yeah, it's incredible what the body does with that.
So before we go, I want to make sure people know where to find you, and also the steps you take when you go to someone's house, because you will be coming to my house very soon. Yeah,
so you can find us at shieldedhealing.com, and we travel all over the United States. And we even went to Mexico this year and did a hospital down there. And if you contact us at info@shieldedhealing.com and send us a message, mention the show, and we'll send you a coupon for a discount. And hopefully we'll be in touch. And if you have any questions, you can also send us a question if you have one.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. We could go on. I mean, I have so many other questions that I didn't even get to. And this is a huge passion of mine because of everything that's going on in my own health and what I've seen with my family. And so this is something that it's just one more step to living that optimal health. So thank you for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If I can help you with your health issues, contact me, Sarah at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I'm happy to put together a protocol for you. I know sometimes it's hard to know where to start. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, and my YouTube channel under Accelerated Health Radio. You can also find this episode and all my episodes under iHEART Radio, iTunes, Stitcher, Pandora, or whatever podcast platform you subscribe to. I also do Accelerated Health Bites, where I do short informational videos about health topics and solutions that you ask me about. So if you have a condition or a topic you want me to address, just let me know. And if you like what you heard today, please hit the subscribe button and share this with a few of your friends who may need my help. As you share my channel, it helps me help more people like you and bring more cutting edge guests like Brian on my show. Don't miss next week's interview. And as you support Accelerated Health Products, I am able to bring you this show and the amazing guests. Thanks again for joining us. And thank you, Brian. Have a great week.
You too. Thanks.